companies regularly delay and deny valid claims because that's how they got to be billion-dollar insurance companies. If you've been injured, I'd like to help.
Spencer Callahan is the one to see. Call 387-2323.
LA filing number 16-7969.
WNXX, Jackson, KNXX, Donaldsonville, and WDGL HD2 Baton Rouge. This hour brought to you by Spencer Callahan Injury Lawyers, LA 21-12681. Offices in Baton Rouge. Now, The Hunt Palmer Show. You are now listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Corks, Cajun Fried Fish and Shrimp on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Locking down the middle of the day. Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studios. This is Hunt Palmer.
Welcome in. Hunt Palmer coming to you from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio downtown in the capital city on a football Friday. I'm all fired up, so I'm stumbling over my words. That's all right. We got 2 hours here from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio, like it once was. Casey Gaines and Taylor Sharp back there on the ones and twos. Hope your work week is coming to a close, and you can turn all eyes to the football weekend that is upon us. It's LSU and Bama tomorrow from Tuscaloosa. We're talking about it. It's Saints and Bears Sunday from the Dome. We're talking about it. Got Preston Guy coming up in 15 minutes. Go through our NFL tiers and get you ready for that weekend. SEC picks against the spread. And, of course, my final pick on both of those football games. I just said this right before we went on air to Casey and Taylor. Like, this is a fun show. I'm fired up. This is one of the best shows of the year for me to do personally because everyone around here is locked in and cares. And more often than not, both of these teams put themselves in position for this to be a huge game. LSU didn't do that in 2020 and didn't do it in 2021, even though LSU almost went there and won in 2021. But for the most part, this has been the biggest game on the schedule. And I talked about that yesterday, about how trying to minimize it is a fool's errand. But it's upon us, and it's time to talk about it, and I'm so pumped up to do so. If you're on the road on this gorgeous day in South Louisiana, lock us in. If you're at work, like a buddy of mine just texted me, he's drinking office beers in Shreveport. Listen to my show. How's that for the economy? And I think a lot of you may not be super productive this afternoon, but that's okay. Hang out with us until 3 o'clock. We are fired up to be here. I literally got to work today, and I pulled out a sticky note, and I started writing down the topics that we've covered in this game. I talked extensively about Alabama's offensive line and what LSU's defensive front needs to do. I talked about what this Alabama team has done in the second half on defense, plus what LSU has done in the second half on offense. We've talked about Jalen Milroe and what he's looked like. We've talked about what Jaden Daniels can accomplish in this game. And I was writing all these down on a sticky note. So I'm like, okay, well, we got to find some other angles in this game. And so I think a couple came to my mind. One that we have talked about a little bit, but I'm going to put some numbers to it. And what do I always tell you about numbers? I like to look at them. But when you have a preconceived notion and you understand what you believe to be a trend or something you can back up with numbers, and then you go look it up, sometimes the numbers perfectly back it up, and sometimes the numbers tell you a bit of a different story. This is an instance where you have a preconceived notion. It's one that I share with you because you've watched Alabama play all year long and you've watched LSU play all year long. And the numbers are going to back this up perfectly. It's big plays. What do you hear when you hear Jalen Milroe? You hear, well, he's a great runner. Maybe a little indecisive in the pocket, but he throws a great deep ball. How many times have you heard that? I've said it a bunch. Throws a great deep ball. Well, the numbers bear that out beautifully. Alabama, in terms of ranks in the SEC, in 10-plus yard pass plays, 10 yards or more, they're 13th out of 14 teams. 13th, second to last in 10-plus yard passes. In 20-plus yard passes, Bama's 8th. They go from the bottom to basically middle of the pack when you move it up. 30-plus yard passes, Bama's 7th, squarely in the middle of the SEC. 40-plus yard passes, Bama's 3rd. Obviously, you know that LSU's first in that category. They've thrown the ball exceptionally well and made huge plays, but that bears it out. When you look at normal passing offenses within the parameter of intermediate routes, Bama's second to last in the league. But as you move back 10 yards, they go from 13th to 8th to 7th to 3rd. That's the framework of the offense. LSU's defense, giving up 10-plus yard passes, they're 11th. Giving up 20-plus yard passes, they're 11th. Giving up 30-plus yard passes, they're 13th. And giving up 40-plus yard passes, they're 11th. So they're in the double digits in a 14-team league in all of those categories, which none of that will come to a surprise to you. But I think it's interesting to actually put the data to the notion. And so you look at LSU's defensive backs, and you understand the situation that they're in. I expect to see a ton of Ashton Stamps tomorrow. I expect to see a ton of Sage Ryan tomorrow. And I do think there's a real possibility that Javian Toviano plays a ton of football in this game. He has been largely a special teams player for this team. But he was a highly thought of recruit. And of the freshmen in this class, in the defensive backfield, Javian Toviano and Ashton Stamps are the two that got here and looked the part physically. Javian Toviano and Ashton Stamps both don't look like skinny little freshmen. I've seen Rashard Robinson out there at practice, and even though he did play his freshman year, he looked like a freshman. I've seen Daryl Simon out there at practice. He looked like a freshman. I've seen Ron Brooks out there at practice look like a freshman. I've seen Greedy Williams out there, and he redshirted, looked like a freshman. They look the part. They have no experience. So they're going to go out there and try to cover these guys. And to the point that we're making on the top of the show here about Alabama hitting the big play down the field, Jermaine Burton averages 22 yards per catch. 22 yards a catch. Isaiah Bond averages 16 yards per catch. However, no one else on the Alabama team has more than 20 catches in 8 games. So no one's catching 3 balls a game, 2.5 balls a game outside of those two guys. That's it. This is not some 3-4-headed monster they've had. You know that. And this is not a passing game that's lighting people up on drag routes and stop routes and hitting bubble screens. And that's just not what they're doing. They're throwing the ball deep. Now, the one notion that you may have is that Jalen Milroe is running all over the place. That one is not necessarily the case. He's running for 52 yards a game without the sacks. Now, he's been sacked a billion times, which you know by now. But what he's doing is not a ton of quarterback power. It's not like, Nick Fitzgerald at Mississippi State, who was the leading rusher in the conference. It's not a run-first deal with him. He runs some design stuff that they set up through the read option, and he runs a little bit to pick up some first downs. He's fast. He's pretty physical, but for the most part, he kind of gets out of bounds. But there have been quarterbacks in the SEC that run significantly more than this. He's capable. He's just not doing it a ton, which is what brings me to Harold Perkins in this segment of the conversation. I think he's better served trying to go get Jalen Milroe than trying to spy. They'll do both, but I think you're better off trying to force a sack and a negative play or a game-changing turnover type play while compromising that, hey, if you do blitz him and you don't have a spy, he may pick up a first down. They may get a first down anyway. If this was the 9-6 game, first downs are precious. You can't give them up. You got to keep Milroe in the pocket. You got to spy him. Let him sit back there and try to work. This figures to be up and down a little bit, okay? So go make a play. Don't sit back. I think they're going to sit back in the secondary, which I think is smart, not to let Bama go over the top. So let those guys play a little softer. And you guys up front, go beat Alabama where people have beaten them. People have beaten them at the line of scrimmage. Go get them. That's my thought on what Matt House, his overarching theme will be. There's never a coordinator who goes into a game saying, I'm going to blitz 6 or 7 on every play. And unless you're playing Mike Leach, there's not a coordinator who says, I'm dropping 8 on every play. You're going to vary things all the time. But the pillar of the game plan, in my opinion, should be help these young corners and DBs against guys who are averaging 20-plus yards a catch, and go get Alabama where they may be weaker on the offensive front and in the quick decision-making of the quarterback. And the best guy you've got to affect that is Harold Perkins. Now, what we haven't talked about here at all this week is the Alabama running game. And it's good. It's not what we thought in August in media days, July and media days, saying this is going to be the biggest, most physical offensive line. They're just going to slam it down your throats. Their 2 running backs are seniors. You know who's not a senior at Alabama? Mark Ingram, Trent Richardson, Derrick Henry, Josh Jacobs, TJ Yeldon. Those are pros when they've been out of high school for 3 years. Chase McClellan's a fine player. He's a senior. And they gave him the ball 27 times against Tennessee. That was his biggest workload of the season. He hadn't had 3 or more catches in any game this year. He's a downhill guy. He's fine. In the same way that Logan Diggs is a fine player for LSU, but I wouldn't put him in the category of Leonard Fournette or Darius Geis or Jeremy Hill. Roydell Williams will get some carries for Alabama tomorrow. 5'10", senior running back. Was the bell cow against South Florida, but since then hasn't really been. It's not like he's some pass-catching third down back. He's got 1 catch in the last 4 games. This Alabama offense is solid. It's not great. They've got 2 solid pillars. The 40-plus yard pass, where they're third best in the conference, and steady running with a mobile quarterback and 2 senior running backs. If this were your standard LSU defense, I'd feel great sitting in this chair. Great. I'd look at that offense LSU's going to trot out, and I'd look at your standard LSU defense, and I'd go, Bama's decent, but you got to hold them around 24 points. I just don't know what to make of the unit LSU's going to put out there tomorrow. I don't know what to take from the Auburn game. I don't know what to take from the second half of the Missouri game. I know what to take from the Ole Miss game in the first half of the Missouri game. That was a disaster. Are they any better? We've talked now for 8 hours and 12 minutes this week on this show. And it really all just kind of boils back down to that. We'll talk LSU's offense against Bama's defense later on, and I'll do some of that with Preston here coming up. But you know what Bama wants to do. It's just a question of, can LSU slow that down to any degree? I'll give you my pick coming up in an hour and 40 minutes or so. It's a Friday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show presented by Corks, Cajun Fried Fish and Shrimp. Still time to get by for a quick lunch over there on Government between Foster and Jefferson. Fantastic, fantastic fried fish and fried catfish. If you're hosting a game watch party tomorrow night, you don't really want to cook, dirty a bunch of dishes, just tell Corks. They can put together just an incredible catering package for you. I know there's going to be game watching parties all over the Baton Rouge area. Corks can help you out with that. Clean, crispy, fried catfish, jumbo Gulf shrimp. And that's that recipe born right here in the seafood capital of the world, South Louisiana. Love telling you about our friends over there at Corks on Government Street. Moving right along here, we'll chat with Preston Guy of TigerBait.com next.
You are now listening to the Hunt Palmer Show.
LWCC is Louisiana loyal. They're elevating and celebrating champions of Louisiana like Marucci Sports. Baseball season wrapped up at the professional level, but if you're watching the World Series, you're seeing a lot of Marucci products. But we're talking about their relationship with our state, not with Major League Baseball, and it is so strong. They provide an economic boost to the state every summer with their Marucci World Series. It brings thousands of youth athletes and coaches and parents into Baton Rouge every single July. We're talking about their ability with their baseball performance lab to bring in people from all over the country to work here in Louisiana and bolster our economy. And also, they keep some of our elite talent here in Louisiana, which is a battle that we always fight. If you know of a champion of Louisiana, LWCC loves to tell these stories. That's what they're doing with their Champions of Louisiana campaign. Go to lwcc.com/champions and nominate a new champion of Louisiana. Marucci Sports is a champion of Louisiana. LWCC is Louisiana loyal.
Our listeners fire off their opinions on the jimsfirearms.net hotline at 499-1045. Keep listening for your next chance to shoot us your thoughts with the jimsfirearms.net hotline on 1045 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Trucks, $15,000 off, and a 1 million mile warranty. Plus, we'll pay your trade-off regardless of what you owe. The crew at Bayou Automotive is going to do right by you.
Gulf Coast Bank and Trust is giving our customers the power to bank anywhere, anytime during this challenging event. And we're right there with you. Our mobile banking app is a smart way to manage your money and time. Gulf Coast Bank and Trust, the bank that cares about you.
It was a humid day, barefoot children play, looking for that summer shade. Time just slips away. Oh, Louisiana, some kind of hold on me. Like cypress stumps, your roots are planted deep inside of me.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.
Running Boards Marketing can help you get their attention. Imagine your brand's message on a giant LED billboard truck that can't be skipped and is nearly impossible to ignore. Running Boards Marketing is the leader in effective and affordable advertising on digital mobile billboards, which are 2 times more effective than traditional billboards. With a 97% recall rate, you'll leave a lasting impression with your customers.
Bayou Ford has the new inventory to get you in a new Ford truck or SUV today, or customize your next vehicle just the way you want it. All new Bayou Ford vehicles come with a 1 million mile powertrain warranty. The crew at Bayou Ford is going to do right by you.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a
104.5 this Sunday to catch 3 different NFL games. We start with the noon kickoff, the Seahawks at Ravens. Immediately following that, it's the Cowboys and Eagles. And then our night game, the Bills at Bengals. Catch all of those games here on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Corks, Cajun Fried Fish and Shrimp.
Moving right along, Football Friday here on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Bama Friday here on ESPN Baton Rouge. Let's head out to the Jim's Firearms Hotline, a guy that I think probably enjoys himself a Bama Friday. That is Preston Guy of TigerBait.com. Preston, how are you, sir?
Doing good, Hunt. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. What was the biggest deal for LSU in the bye week?
Getting dudes healthy. I mean, think about Emory Jones. If you lose a guy like that in a game like this, that'd not be a good position to have. And I'm sure a lot of LSU's team was also banged up. They were hoping to get, or at least the fans were hoping to get Zy Alexander back from his injury. Looks like he won't be back, at least for the Bama game. So I think that was a big deal. I talked to Mason Smith after the Army game, and he just walked me through how beat up he was, from his fall camp and dislocating fingers, and I'm sure he wasn't the only one.
No doubt, and that's it's a big deal, and Bama takes it on this week as well. Let's start with the good. Obviously, LSU's offense. If you're Mike Denbrock, what's mission number one on Saturday?
Score a lot of points, preferably more than Alabama scores.
Any idea how he'll do that?
Well, probably just hopefully not by changing what they've been doing. That's been my biggest fear all season, is that with the defense struggling, they're going to try to play defense on offense. And it's tough to score points against SEC teams, much less score points in a manner in which, put your defense in a better position. I just think you need to go out there and play the ball you've been playing. My one concern with this matchup, most of the things I really like the way the puzzle pieces fit together for the LSU-Bama matchup. One thing that does give me pause is Alabama's top 5 in the country in sacks, and they have a very strong front seven, and if their front seven is able to control the line of scrimmage, that just changes the way you operate your offense fundamentally. Just certain things that you can do. Yeah, sure, your receivers are good enough to get open, your quarterback's good enough to get it there, but if he doesn't have time to pass, none of that matters. So that would be the one thing that gives me pause. But I do have confidence in this offensive line that they'll be able to play well enough to allow their offense to operate.
I talked to Mike Denbrock this morning for the pregame show, and he sung their praises just about how well they've allowed LSU to operate. But clearly, Bama is a little bit of a different animal, and I bring that up to go back, unfortunately, to Labor Day weekend, and your thoughts on that Florida State second half where LSU was just completely stuck in the mud. I realized Malik Neighbors fell down once, and there was a drop, and maybe that's the whole thing, but it's something that makes me pause a little bit when I start to compare Alabama to Missouri and Ole Miss and Auburn.
Yeah, that's the game I keep on going back to, and I just think about how good the offense has been since that game, and I go back and I think, what the heck happened, man? How did they only score 24 points and effectively just collapse in the second half? And when you go back and watch the tape, yeah, they were controlled at the line of scrimmage. They, give credit to Florida State. They did a good job, but I think another key role that's emerged since then is the emergence of Logan Diggs being just such a consistent running threat and a complete back. He can block, he can catch out of the backfield, he can run in between the tackles, and he's put LSU in positions where instead of, consistently, second and 8 or second and 7 type situations, he's getting you in second and 5, second and 4 situations just by being a good, solid back. And I really think that he's been a big key to this offense taking the next level, because remember, he didn't play against Florida State. So that is one thing that I think gives me hope that as LSU continues to play teams with strong front sevens, that perhaps that was the missing cog that was was missing for that game, and who knows what it could have looked like had he been playing.
Flip it to the other side. Obviously, LSU's defense has had its struggles, but the last couple of weeks might probably make them feel better from a confidence perspective. Let's start with the corners, where you're incredibly green. How do you protect those guys, if at all?
Yeah, unfortunately, you're just going to have to make sure not to put guys on islands and give them support. Of course, the number one way you can help some raw defensive backs is by getting some good pass rush. And unfortunately, you play one of the most dynamic athletes in the country. In fact, you might have the 2 most athletic quarterbacks on the country on the field this weekend. So the good news with Jalen Milroe, he does like to throw from the pocket, right? He's not, when he rolls out, and he's getting better at this, but he is looking to run when the play breaks down. So that matchup does help the DBs a little bit. But ultimately, someone's going to have to step up. The good news is you've got Sage Ryan, a veteran player out there on the one corner, right? And frankly, it's arguable that he might be your best defensive back so far this year, the way he's played this year. Now, the other defensive back, you would guess it'd be Ashton Stamps out there. Maybe he's been banged up coming off some injury. I tend to think that Brian Kelly's going to pull a rabbit out of his hat for that position, and we'll see. Think over the years, a lot of times when guys are in positions like this, guys step up unexpectedly. I brought up the example of Josh Dworczyk against Jadeveon Clowney in 2012, where we're talking about a guy, who's got, two, medically replaced knees. And he goes out there and locks up the number 1 pick in the draft at left tackle. And he was an interior lineman before that. And think about that same year, Tyrann Mathieu got booted off the team and Jalen Mills came in and played very serviceably. You're going to have to see a guy step up like this. The good news is, Hunt, it's not like you're replacing Patrick Peterson back there with a freshman who's green. These things are all about the margins when you're talking about injuries and drop-offs. So could you convince me that after the game I might be talking about how whoever stepped up into that role was playing better than, Zai or whomever was going to be there? Yeah, I could be convinced of that because, I'm not trying to be, down on LSU's player, but it's not like that was a super high bar that's been set this year. So that is somewhat the good news.
What do you do with your Harold Perkins chess piece in this game?
Yeah, I think I keep him playing spy all game long. Just do not let Jalen Milroe beat you with those long runs. Get some pressure in his face if he breaks down and starts looking downfield, and get him to the ground if he wants to run outside. That's what I would do with him.
Fascinating point or a question, I guess. It was a point in the Body 4 chat, but I'll turn it into a question. Say you're Brian Kelly and you win the toss. What are you doing?
Give me the ball. Get that offense out there. Set the tone.
I'm just terrified of the back-to-back possessions at the end of the half and the beginning of the second half.
I feel you.
I like the thought. I just don't know if I can do it. I think I have to protect myself at the end of the half.
I just feel like if you can jump out to that 7-0 lead and kind of set the tone that we're coming to play, we're going to score some points today, I think that'll do you some good. But I don't actually get caught up in the semantic of that too much. I don't think ultimately it matters too much either way.
I'm just thinking back to that 19 game, and to your exact point, although it was a little bit different, because Tua dropped the ball. But then LSU got the ball, and went right down the field and hit Chase for the touchdown. And I'm certain that Alabama sideline in the stadium went, "Oh, this isn't normal. This is not the old LSU." And that to your point, if they could take the ball in the first time and go right down the field and do that, I think you can create some tension in the stands. I'm just scared to do it. I'm too big of a wuss.
Yeah, I just think Alabama, the caliber of talent they have.
Yeah.
The caliber of coach that they have there, right? I think that when you play a team like Alabama and you go out and punch them, you got to punch them in the mouth. Straight up. You got to send a message that we're here to play. And, of course, they always respond, but typically teams who win do take that first punch.
We'll see. Preston Guy, TigerBait.com. He and Mike Scarborough, tons of content up there on the site, pre- and post-game, TigerBait.com. Preston, thanks for the time. Enjoy your weekend.
All right, Hunt. See you next week.
Sure will. He is, of course, Preston Guy. Friday show is brought to you by Corks. When we come back, we'll get you set up for the NFL slate, some Saints and Bears talk at the end of the hour as well. It's the Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Score early this NFL season with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 money line bet. That's $150 if your team wins. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, no better time to get in on the action. The app's easy to use. Wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, over-unders, and more. Visit FanDuel.com/1045ESPN to kick off the NFL season. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. Must be 21 and present in Louisiana. First online real money wager only. $5 pregame moneyline wager required. First online real money wager only. $10 first deposit required. Bonus basis is non-withdrawable bonus bet. It expires 7 days after receipt. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. If you or someone who has a gambling problem and wants help, call 1-877-770-STOP.
In times of need, get a full list of phone numbers, websites, and other important emergency information on the Demco Stormwatch page at 1045ESPN.com. Follow us on Twitter at 1045ESPN to cast your vote in the Citizens Bank and Trust poll of the day. Vote daily inside Off the Bench, live at lunch, Hunt Palmer. And after further review, Citizens Bank and Trust brings you the poll of the day via Twitter at 1045ESPN.
His name was Cain. He had a horse along the countryside. I saw him ride. One day they found him.
When is a taco more than just a taco? When it's Government Taco. Voted best tacos 3 years in a row by 225 Magazine, Government Taco puts the most delicious spin on tacos the capital area has ever seen. With creative combinations like the Magna Carrot, the Filibuster, or the Steak of the Union. Plus perfect tortilla chips paired with the best salsa and queso you've ever had. And happy hour every day from 3 to 6 p.m. and all day on Thursday. Government Taco, 5621 Government Street.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Scooncha, fall in the air. Fall is right around the corner, which means fall fishing is, which means it's time for you to take your boat to the next level with front-to-back boat service in a bunch of different ways. You want a custom stair job, you can have a ton of fun out there on the water. They can do that. What about a spot lock trolling motor? So you stay right where you need to in casting lines. Or sonar that's let you see the fish under the water before you cast. All of your maintenance needs as well. For 38 years, they've been at it and will continue to do so. The Sherman family of front-to-back boat service.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals. But many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents.
Moscona inviting you to join us for a Football Friday edition of AFR presented by Don Juan Cigar Bar. Final preps and picks for LSU-Alabama. Phil Steele and the Riot Radio Hours. Join us 3 to 6, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Corks, Cajun Fried Fish and Shrimp.
It's that time of the week where we get you set for the NFL Sunday. You know how we do it. Tiers 1, that's the solid must-see TV. Tier 2, good football. Tier 3, not looking great. Tier 4 is the trash of Sunday's action. And usually the meat of the schedule is in tiers 2 and 3. Like, it's not terrible, it's not great, but not this week. There are 4 that I've got in Tier 1 that I think are must-see TV. There are 4 in Tier 4 that I think stink, and not as many in Tiers 2 and 3. We'll start with the stuff that I won't be watching too much of, and that is Tier 4. The Cardinals and the Browns. Here's a game for you. Taylor Sharp, open your mic. Let's see how you do on this pop quiz. The starting quarterbacks in this game for the Cardinals and the Browns might be Clayton Tune and P.J. Walker. Can you tell me where either one of them went to college?
Clayton Tune went to Houston.
That's
I know
correct.
That.
Yes.
P.J. Walker, I couldn't tell you.
Went to Temple, Fighting Owl.
I was going to guess
so
that.
That's really exciting stuff. I think I'll pass on the Cardinals and the Browns. Rams are at the Packers. Bryce Love. I do that every time. Jordan Love has thrown an interception in 5 straight games. That is the most in 13 years by a Packers quarterback. Probably not all that surprising. The Packers also 0-4 against the number in their last 4 games. That is their longest streak in 10 years. I think that Packers fans are in for a bit of a rude awakening here after those 30-plus years of Favre and Rodgers. This is not all that much fun when your quarterback's not very good, and their quarterback is not very good. But no, the Rams aren't very good either. So here you go, Rams-Packers in Tier 4. The Colts are at the Panthers. The only intrigue in this one is that the Colts fired Frank Reich last year. We know from last week's discussion that the Colts can run it and do want to run it, and Carolina is 29th in the NFL in run defense, so I don't think the Panthers will be getting win number 2 this week. And the Giants at the Raiders, also in Tier 4. Again, another coaching story here. Antonio Pierce making his head coaching debut for the Raiders. He, of course, played for the Giants. The Raiders have won 2 straight home games. They have not won 3 straight home games since moving to Las Vegas. So shout out Derek Carr for that stat. But we'll see if they can do it against the Giants, who are very, very poor. So that's 4 games in Tier 4 on Sunday. Tier 3, a little bit better, but not great. The Commanders are at the Patriots. Washington spent all that money on their defensive front. They've now traded all of it away, basically. It wasn't working anyway. They're 31st in the NFL in points allowed. Good news for them, though, I guess. Look at the Mac Jones-led New England Patriots. 31st in the NFL in points scored. The Patriots are the only NFL team that has not won a game against a non-divisional team. The only one in the NFL. Speaking of in for a rude awakening, maybe they've already awoken. Patriots, Tom Brady no longer there. You're not very good anymore. This league, kind of important to have a good quarterback, and the Packers and Patriots have had him for a long time and don't anymore. The Bucs are at the Texans. This is in Tier 3 as well. Houston has lost 5 straight games as a favorite. That's brutal. It's the second longest streak in the NFL to Carolina, who's lost 9 straight as a favorite. Todd Bowles in Tampa love to blitz. C.J. Stroud, 4th best in the NFL against the blitz. So we'll see if the Texans at home can handle Tampa. I know Saints fans would very much appreciate that. It seems like the Buccaneers may have kind of turned into a pumpkin after a couple of really good weeks to start the year to their standard. Tier 2, this is the better football. Only 1 game here before we get to the really good stuff in Tier 1. The Vikings are at the Falcons. This is not going to be Kirk Cousins against Desmond Ridder. In fact, it'll be Taylor Heineke against Jaron Hall. More really good quarterback play here. No Justin Jefferson. The over-under here is 37.5. I'll take the under. These 2 quarterbacks stink. Justin Jefferson's not out there. Both teams are 4-4. Here's an interesting nugget. Over the last 2 years, again, both teams are 4-4 at this point. If you go 5-4, 8 of 13 have made the playoffs over the last 2 years. You go 4-5, only 2 of 8 have made it, so only 25% there, well over 50% if you go to 5-4. So maybe a big game for the Vikings and the Falcons. I know the Saints fans will be pulling hard for Jaron Hall in the Minnesota Vikings. All right, here's the good stuff in Tier 1. The Dolphins are playing the Chiefs in Frankfurt. Both teams are 6-2, and this is kind of looking towards the top of the AFC. Do you want to control that tiebreaker, have a chance to play your playoff games at home? I've got a feeling Tua would probably, as a Hawaii guy and a guy who went to Alabama and now is in Miami, probably not wild about going to Kansas City in January if he doesn't have to. Probably rather play that game on South Beach if he could. So that's a huge, huge deal here. In terms of the game and how these 2 teams are playing, Mahomes obviously had the turnover bug last week. The Chiefs did as a whole, turn it over 5 times. Mahomes has only thrown multiple interceptions in back-to-back games twice in his entire career. We'll see if he can limit the turnovers in Frankfurt against the Dolphins. No word, in my opinion, or to my knowledge, whether or not Taylor Swift's going to be at the game. I know Travis Kelce was asked yesterday if he's in love, and he said he would like to keep his personal matters personal. So shout out to you, Travis. Seahawks are at the Ravens. This is a little bit surprising to me that Seattle's playing this well a second year in a row. Lamar Jackson's been awesome. He leads the NFL in yards per attempt under pressure. And quietly, Seattle leads the NFC West. Just kind of under the radar. Here we are, the Seahawks. Nobody's really talking about them, at least that I've seen, and they're leading the West right now. Cowboys at the Eagles. Taylor Sharp's guys. Look, if you're looking at this game, if Dallas can win, they tie the NFC East in the loss column. A.J. Brown's a bit of a problem. 6 straight 125-yard-plus games. Can the Cowboys contain A.J. Brown and get a win in Philly, Mr. Sharp?
I don't know if they will, but they're definitely capable of it. Last week showed me a lot from the Cowboys. Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb, I was waiting for them to break out. You know me, I'm not the biggest Dak fan in the world, but
I do know that.
Him and CeeDee Lamb have always had a really good connection. This year, for whatever reason, it had not been there. Last week, they kind of refound what they had the last couple of years, and the Eagles' offense hasn't been super explosive the last couple of weeks. It's been efficient, but it hasn't been those big plays that we've seen. So I think they can win, but I am going to pick the Eagles in this game.
I'm not surprised. What's your confidence level 1 to 10 on the Cowboys as a whole this season?
About a 6.5.
So
look,
reasonable would be about a 7, 7.5. I'm taking you down 1.
Tony Pollard's not an every down running back. We've seen that. He hasn't been good this year.
He's fast.
He is very fast, Hunt, but he's not a between the tackles runner. People hated Zeke. The fact of the matter is he was still really good in short yardage. You got rid of that guy. You didn't replace him, so you're down a weapon there, and offense has been a little janky so far.
Gonna be a good one. Cowboys and Eagles on Sunday night. Oh no, Bengals and are the Cowboys and Eagles Sunday night. They're in the afternoon. Bengals and Bills Sunday night football. Josh Allen has thrown an interception in 4 straight games against Cincinnati. This year he leads the NFL in QBR and completion percentage. So we'll see how he plays. Buffalo 0-4 against the spread in their last 4 games. This is a huge spot for Cincinnati. I think everybody believes that they've kind of got it figured out over the last 3 games, and they're moving in the right direction. Joe's finally healthy coming off the bye, and they played great last week in kind of a statement performance out there in San Francisco. See if they can come home and handle the Buffalo Bills. I'll be pulling for them on Sunday night. We'll see how that goes. So that is your NFL tier list here on this Friday. Our Friday show is brought to you by Corks, Cajun Fried Fish and Shrimp. Still plenty to get to on this Football Friday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show. In the second hour, we're going to get my SEC picks against the point spread. We're going to get some take it or leave it as well. We got my final pick for Saints and Bears, as well as my final pick for LSU and Alabama. So when we come back, we'll dive into the Saints and the Bears from the Dome on Sunday. That's next in the Hunt Palmer Show.
You are now listening to the Hunt Palmer Show.
Don't let the power go out. No need to let that happen. It does around here. We got hurricanes all summer long. Got issues that pop up with afternoon summer thunderstorms. And then when power goes out, it's just a nuisance. And it's not just the power staying on in your home when you're there, which is obviously priority number 1. But sometimes we have to evacuate for a hurricane. You want your power up and operating when that storm goes out. You want your fridge and freezer running. You want the house to be cooled when you come home from that evacuation. You just want your power when you come home, and it's safe to be back at home. Boudreaux's Electric can do it. They're a certified Generac generator dealer. Neil and Melissa Boudreaux have been operating this business for 40 years, and they've got some great new technology in terms of the monitoring of the generators that I tell you about all the time. But they still operate like a small-town family company. That's why you want to do business with them. Call them at that new phone number for that new location in Gonzales. It's going to be opening early in 2023, but the phone number 2024, but that phone number is already up and running. 225-300-9389. 225-300-9389. Every single Generac generator that Boudreaux's Electric sells you comes with a free 10-year warranty. Give them a call. It's Boudreaux's Electric.
Our listeners fire off their opinions on the jimsfirearms.net hotline at 499-1045. Keep listening for your next chance to shoot us your thoughts with the jimsfirearms.net hotline on 1045 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Bayou Ford has the new inventory to get you in a new Ford truck or SUV today, or customize your next vehicle just the way you want. All new Bayou Ford vehicles come with a 1 million mile powertrain warranty. The crew at Bayou Ford is going to do right by you.
The Windsor Senior Living Community in Mandeville, Louisiana is a beautiful, vibrant apartment community geared towards seniors. They are nestled right in the heart of Mandeville, where seniors live a more carefree lifestyle in spacious apartments with the peace of mind that comes from having a little extra help. Call the Windsor at 985-624-8040 to schedule a lunch and tour. Come see how the Windsor can be your passport to peace of mind.
His name was Cain. He had a horse along the countryside. I saw him ride. One day they found him.
Gulf Coast Bank and Trust is giving our customers the power to bank anywhere, anytime during this challenging event. And we're right there with you. Our mobile banking app is a smart way to manage your money and time. Gulf Coast Bank and Trust, the bank that cares about you.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps are held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.
Running Boards Marketing can help you get their attention. Imagine your brand's message on a giant LED billboard truck that can't be skipped and is nearly impossible to ignore. Running Boards Marketing is the leader in effective and affordable advertising on digital mobile billboards, which are 2 times more effective than traditional billboards. With a 97% recall rate, you'll leave a lasting impression with your customers.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink.
10 in the prep football season, and we get started Friday night at 6 with Louisiana Prep Preview presented by Brock. And we recap the night starting at 10 with Louisiana Prep Scoreboard presented by Lake Urgent Care. On YouTube, Your View, and 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
You're listening to the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Corks, Cajun Fried Fish and Shrimp.
I'll be out at Rouse's this afternoon from about 3:15 to 5 o'clock. Rouse's Burbank and Lee, our general Friday stop. Looking forward to getting out there. I'll have cups and shirts and hats and keychains and all kinds of things to give away. Be talking football. So if you're getting out this afternoon to do your weekend grocery shopping to get ready for your football weekend, come on by Rouse's Burbank and Lee and see me. We'll always love our Fridays out there from 3 to 5, but obviously get off at 3 o'clock. So give me about 10 minutes to get over there, and then we'll set everything up and be ready to rock and roll. Do want to get you ready for tomorrow with LSU and Alabama in terms of our schedule on the network. Kickoff is at 6:45 between LSU and Bama. That means at 1:45 it'll be Charles Hannegriff and Matt Musso from Rouse's on Eagle 98.1 Game Day. They'll go for 3 hours. Hand off to us on the network at 4:45. Be myself, Brandon Taylor, and Marlon Favorite getting you ready for kickoff in Tuscaloosa. We'll toss it up to the broadcast team at 6:15. They'll get to call the game on Eagle 98.1. Then 30 minutes after it goes final, back on the LSU Sports Radio Network with the Fighting Tiger post-game report. Myself, Brandon, and Marlon taking Twitter interaction, reacting to the game. And then 90 minutes after the game goes final, Charles Hannegriff and Richard Dixon from right here in the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio on Eagle 98.1 Game Day's post-game show, taking your phone calls. So a full day of football that'll go from 1:45 until probably about 2 o'clock in the morning, if we're being honest about things. So very much looking forward to tomorrow. And then Sunday, we'll get up and we'll watch the Saints and the Bears. It's a noon kickoff on CBS inside the Dome. The Saints are 8.5-point favorites for a reason in this game. That reason is pretty simple. The Bears are terrible. They're terrible. Y'all know this by now. I talk about it all the time, but it's true, so we'll throw it in there when the Saints play the Bears 2 days from now. I get a lot of Chicago sports opinions, takes, media, content. It all flows my way because I follow the Cubs for 10 months a year. And I get a lot of Bears strays that show up. Everybody is disenchanted with everything that's going on in Chicago. They got rid of the old director of football ops that they hated. They got rid of Matt Nagy, who they hated. They brought in a new football regime, and they already hate all of them too. Most of them quit on Justin Fields. He's not a factor this week. It's Bagent, Tyler Bagent, who's the D2 quarterback that was undrafted, that they thought, oh, he functioned like a normal human 2 weeks ago. This could be really good. And then He went out there and was what you would expect. He was awful last week, and they got embarrassed on national TV by the Chargers. 2-6 football team that is not good on either side of the football. And the Saints have an opportunity on their home turf to get back into over 500 and move towards taking control of this bad division. However, have the Saints earned our trust that they can go do that? Well, they've gone over 400 yards the last 3 games, and they scored their highest point total of the season last week against the Colts with 38. The Bears defense gave up 30 to the Chargers last week. I don't think Montez Sweat's going to come in and change all of that. This is about the Saints going out there and just functioning on offense. If Derek Carr goes out there and plays an efficient game, I'm not asking for anything crazy. I might need Jaden Daniels to be crazy against Alabama. I don't need Derek Carr to be crazy against the Bears. He's thrown for 300 yards the last 3 games. He's only gone up to 5 twice in 2020 and 2021, but he's done it 3 games in a row. Some of that's garbage time stuff. They were down big against Jacksonville. But if they can show me some of the stuff that they showed me against the Colts last week, against a Bears defense that's not that great, then I can start to believe in some of that. I mentioned this earlier. I think that Tampa's kind of turned into a pumpkin. Nice start there. Really nice performance in the Dome, which happens every once in a while in the NFL. But is that a 17-week team that you think is going to be sustainable? I don't. The Saints could be. Baker Mayfield's never been that guy. All the players from that Super Bowl defense, essentially outside of the linebacking core, are basically gone in Tampa. The Saints defense has been pretty consistent. And you're just, quite frankly, playing a bad team this week. Vibes in the Dome were bad 2 Thursdays ago. And I'm telling you, they would be awful entering this game if the Saints had gone on the road and laid an egg and scored 14 points. But they may have showed something last week. Offensive line's getting a little healthier, playing a little better. Derek Carr's kind of trusting his wide receivers and maybe getting closer to the same page. And I'm not going to spend any time right now on this Friday hammering Pete Carmichael when they've gone over 400 yards 3 straight games and they're coming off their best performance of the year. I think everyone's well aware of my thoughts on where the organization is in this 3-year window that we're looking at here. This Derek Carr era that the Saints are committed to. But every conversation, if we're going to be reasonable about this, has to include the division they play in. The Chiefs don't play in this division. Neither the Bengals or the Bills. Ravens don't play in this division. Neither do the Eagles or the Cowboys. We're talking about Atlanta making a quarterback change. Tampa, who's looked bad the last couple of weeks, and Carolina, who's atrocious. So you had a really bad stretch there. Maybe try to come out of it. You caught a break next week. Everyone's well aware of this. I don't think the Saints internally are thinking about Minnesota, but we know what their situation is at quarterback at this point. They're trading for a backup from Arizona who's only playing because their guy's hurt in the middle of the season. They're starting a rookie from BYU this week. So take care of business against Chicago, and then all of a sudden you can start looking at this team being in pretty good shape once you get to Thanksgiving. Is 4-4 what you want at this point? No. You didn't think you were going to get dusted by Tampa. But this is a spot where you can take advantage. The Bears are the worst pass rush in the NFL prior to Montez Sweat getting there. I don't think he's going to make that big a difference. Your offensive line is not massively disadvantaged in this game, and that's been the Achilles heel of the offense all year. Keep Carr upright, get Kamara involved, use Taysom Hill in the red zone, don't make stupid turnovers, and give the Bears a short field. The Bears against this defense are not going to go up and down the field with Tyler Badgett slinging the pigskin. And the Saints should be just fine. Should be a good environment. Should be some decent vibes in there as long as things go well early. And I like where the Saints sit now better than I did 6 days ago. But you got to cash in on it. Yesterday, I do the segment on Thursdays, best win, worst loss in college football in the NFL. This, I circled, would be the worst loss in the NFL if the Saints can't beat this Chicago team. Got to get up, get at it on Sunday, put this Bears team away by the end of the third quarter. Teams do that. The Chiefs buried them. The Chargers buried them. The Packers buried them. And by the way, the Packers stink. This team has been beat down through 3 quarters of lots of games. On their home field, the Saints should be able to do that. So we'll see if they can coming up on Sunday. Friday shows brought to you by Corks, Cajun fried fish and shrimp. Get on by for a late lunch, maybe dinner tonight. Crispy fried catfish, delicious jumbo Gulf shrimp, and not just all they have. They've got delicious baked potatoes with the crawfish etouffee on top and fried shrimp on top of that. They've got some salad with some shrimp. You don't even have to have the batter on if you're looking for something a little cleaner to eat, maybe watching the old cholesterol. That's okay. They can do it without the batter. Fry it up with that delicious seasoning. It is fantastic stuff over there at Corks. You can dine in their newly renovated dining room or drive right on through on Government Street. Hour number 1 of a Football Friday in the rearview mirror. Open things up talking LSU and Bama. You can catch that segment on Hunt on LSU, our LSU football YouTube channel. We'd appreciate if you'd subscribe to that. Preston Guy, TigerBait.com is with us as well. Got you ready for the NFL week at 1:30. We turn the page to hour number 2 coming up. We'll get you my SEC picks against the spread. Some massive games, Ole Miss and A&M, Georgia and Missouri. Big stuff coming up this weekend. My picks against the spread. And I've got more LSU-Bama talk that we're going to get to as well. We'll play Take It or Leave It and get my final pick for these 2 games coming up in South Louisiana this weekend. Come back after SportsCenter. It's a Friday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show.
Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram is celebrating Ram Power Days with $15,000 off MSRP on new 23 1500 trucks, $15,000 off, and a 1 million mile warranty. Plus, we'll pay your trade-off regardless of what you owe. The crew at Bayou Automotive is going to do right by you.
Life in Louisiana is like a run-on sentence. A poem that doesn't rhyme. Life is here, now. For life's moments, big and small, always there. The right card, the right care.
Scooncha, fall in the air. Fall is right around the corner, which means fall fishing is, which means it's time for you to take your boat to the next level with front-to-back boat service in a bunch of different ways. You want a custom stair job, you can have a ton of fun out there on the water. They can do that. What about a spot lock trolling motor? So you stay right where you need to in casting lines. Or sonar that's let you see the fish under the water before you cast. All of your maintenance needs as well. For 38 years, they've been at it and will continue to do so. The Sherman family of front-to-back boat service.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals. But many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206 9096. Learn the game to love the game.
Running Boards Marketing can help you get their attention. Imagine your brand's message on a giant LED billboard truck that can't be skipped and is nearly impossible to ignore. Running Boards Marketing is the leader in effective and affordable advertising on digital mobile billboards, which are 2 times more effective than traditional billboards. With a 97% recall rate, you'll leave a lasting impression with your customers.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
The best kept secret in town is out. Discover Tallulah at the Renaissance Hotel on Bluebonnet.
This is SportsCenter.
I'm Doug Brown. Cleveland quarterback Deshaun Watson will start Sunday against the Cardinals. Watson has missed practically all of the playing time in the last 4 games with a strained right rotator cuff. The first game of the day Sunday is in Frankfurt, Germany, between the Chiefs and the Dolphins, with both teams 6-2. ESPN's Jeff Darlington is there.
It has a feel, look, I don't want to overstate it, but it definitely feels far more like an AFC Championship game feel or a Super Bowl type of environment than a normal regular season game.
Jeff Darlington. Dodgers left-hander Clayton Kershaw posts on Instagram today he had surgery on his left shoulder. He says he hopes to be able to play at some point next summer. The Blue Jays and Whit Merrifield both declined his $18 million option for next season. That makes the 34-year-old 3-time All-Star a free agent. And Texas Rangers fans lining the streets of Arlington today for the team's championship parade. At least 6 local school districts were closed today so students could enjoy the festivities.
Hey, it's Michelle Smallman. Coming up Monday, I'll tell you why it's time for us to start taking Geno Smith and the Seahawks seriously. It's Unsportsmanlike, 6 a.m. Eastern, right here on ESPN Radio, ESPN2, and ESPNU.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I direct your attention to something quite extraordinary?
Now, the Hunt Palmer Show. The Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Brought to you by Cork's Cajun Fried Fish and Shrimp. Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge Studios. This is Hunt Palmer.
One more hour to go. Hunt Palmer Show, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Let's make it the best hour of the week. I think we can do it. It's a football Friday. It's brought to you by Cork's Cajun Fried Fish and Shrimp, and we got a lot to get to here over the next 60 minutes. In fact, we only have like 52 minutes and change left, so let's get right into it with my SEC picks against the number. We've been decent. I think it's fair to say we've been decent this year. I'm 34-32. And we're getting towards the backstretch. The ultimate goal is to be over 500. I'd like to be 5 or 7 games over 500 to really feel like I did a good job. But we got work to do to get there, and it's got to start on tomorrow's slate at 11 o'clock. You realize there are 4 11 o'clock SEC games tomorrow? 4 of them. The first game day is going to lead into, and it's the one that I want to talk about first because I think it's wildly fascinating. This is a monster game for Texas A&M. This is a monster game for Ole Miss for different reasons, but reasons nonetheless. If Ole Miss wins this game, as I've said many times this week, they will be a one-loss team headed to number 1 Georgia to play the biggest football game in Ole Miss's program since Eli fell down in 2003. That is 20 years. This would be bigger than the Sugar Bowl. They played in a couple times. It would be the biggest game that they've played in 20 years if they could make that happen. For A&M, don't laugh at me. I'm just giving you the facts here. If they win this game on the road, it'd be their first road win in 2 years, by the way. They haven't won a road game in 2 years. That would be their second win in a row because they beat South Carolina last week. They play Mississippi State next week. They're going to win that game. They play Abilene Christian the week after that. They're going to win that game. They would come to Baton Rouge at 8-3 on a 4-game win streak. Okay? I'll stop there, and I won't go, well, if they beat LSU, because you're going to laugh and roll your eyes at me and whatever. But the fact remains, if A&M wins this game, they're going to be 8-3 coming to LSU and with an opportunity to go 9-3. How much different does 9-3 in a 5-game win streak feel than where they're sitting right now at 4-3? It could be the difference in the program, quite honestly. Because if Jimbo loses this one and LSU and goes 7-5, it's decision time, baby. Like, it's decision time in College Station. You go 9-3, well, and I'm struggling as an LSU fan on who to pull for. Because I need Ole Miss to lose again if I'm getting to Atlanta. And I can trust Georgia, but I really don't want to go that far. I'd rather just get the loss out of the way. So in that way, I'd pull for Texas A&M. And also in that way, I might want to keep Jimbo around. Anybody want them taking another swing at a new coach? Or you want Jimbo in that seat where he goes 8-4 every year and y'all laugh at him? Me too, but like, really? And then on the flip side, I just want A&M to lose because that's funny. And I think Ole Miss is going to lose to Georgia. And LSU is working a couple of Texas A&M recruits really hard right now, commits really hard. And I'd like them to come to Baton Rouge instead of stay in College Station. So I'm struggling a little bit with who to pull for. But the question is, who's going to cover? And Ole Miss is a 3-point favorite in the game. A&M is going to have to win this game at the line of scrimmage on defense because if they allow Jackson Dart to throw against that secondary, he's going to have a lot of success. But A&M's been great on the line of scrimmage this year. The Aggies on offense, A&M is the worst red zone touchdown team in the SEC. They've been terrible in the red zone. They're going to have to cash in with some points in this game and preferably touchdowns for them. I'm taking Ole Miss minus the 3 in this game in Oxford. I just think that Jackson Dart's going to throw for a lot of yards on a bad secondary. We saw Jalen Milroe do it. We saw Tyler Van Dyke in Miami do it. I think you're going to see it again with Jackson Dart. So I'll take Ole Miss. I'll lay the 3. UConn's 1-7. They're headed to Rocky Top to play the Vols, the 36-point line. UConn can't score. 14 points on Boston College, 7 points on Duke, 17 on FIU, 14 on NC State. And last week, Boston College ran for 246 yards on UConn. Tennessee's the best running offense in the SEC. They will run for a lot of yards. I will lay the 36 points with the Vols. Arkansas is headed to the Swamp in Florida. That's an 11 o'clock kickoff as well. The Hogs have lost 6 straight games. They just had a bye. They fired their offensive coordinator, promoted an assistant up. But the offense has been the real problem for Arkansas. The defense has been okay. They gave up 7 points to Mississippi State. They lost, but they only gave up 7. Gave up 24 points at Bama. That's fine. Gave up 27 at Ole Miss. That's fine. A&M got 2 non-offensive touchdowns in that game, or it looks a lot better for them. Their defense has been okay. The offense has just been awful. I'm not sure what to make of Florida. I think they're not very good. The Tennessee game feels like an aberration. Kentucky punked them. Utah punked them. Georgia punked them. But can I trust Arkansas to get KJ Jefferson right and play decent? I don't know. But at 11 o'clock in the morning, maybe a sleepy environment after Florida got hammered last week, I'll take Arkansas on the 4.5 in that one in the Swamp. 11 o'clock game on ESPNU, Jacksonville State at South Carolina. Rich Rodriguez is the head coach at Jacksonville State. I didn't know that, but they're 7-2. The question is, does South Carolina care? They've lost 6 games in a row. Do they take out their frustration on Jacksonville State at home, or do they quit? I know that South Carolina's crowd is usually there. They're fiercely loyal. They've had a bad football program their entire existence except for a little bit of the Spurrier era, and they've just been awful, and they just show up. But I just can't lay 15.5 with South Carolina the way that they're playing. They're awful on defense. They can't run the ball. Jacksonville State's functional on offense. They have a pretty good coach, for that level of program with Rich Rodriguez. I'll take 15.5 points pretty happily with Jacksonville State at South Carolina. The 2:30 game on CBS, of course, is a doubleheader with LSU and Alabama in the nightcap. Missouri is at Georgia. That line is 15.5. Missouri has hammered Vanderbilt, Kentucky, and South Carolina by 56 points combined. And last year we know that Missouri hung in with Georgia in Columbia. Missouri's fourth in the SEC in scoring offense. Luther Burden's fantastic. And Georgia has, sleptwalked through some games. They sleptwalked through Auburn, sleptwalked through South Carolina. But you know my philosophy by this point, and I've talked about it. When you get the entire focus of the most powerful force in the sport, it's not pleasant. And Missouri's getting that in Athens on Saturday, and I just don't think that program is ready to go in there and stand up to it. So I'll lay the 15.5 points with Georgia. I think this feels something like 38-13 or something. I think Georgia really puts it to them. But we'll see. 3 o'clock game on the SEC Network. Auburn in Nashville to play Vanderbilt. It's a 12.5-point number. Vanderbilt has only covered once, to my knowledge, this year. They are not a very strong outfit this year or ever. There's going to be more Auburn fans in Nashville than Vanderbilt fans for this one. And Vanderbilt has the worst run defense in the SEC. That is all Auburn wants to do. So Auburn fans will come on in the stadium under construction. They'll outnumber Vandy fans 5-1, and they will beat Vanderbilt by more than 12.5 points because everyone beats Vanderbilt by more than 12.5 points. That's just the state of affairs up there in Nashville. So I will take Auburn and lay the 12.5. Kentucky at Mississippi State. 4.5-point number there. Kentucky is favored in Starkville. Kentucky's lost 3 games in a row. After a really, really strong start, Ray Davis has kind of slowed down 2 of the last 3 weeks. Against Tennessee, the stud running back from Kentucky ran for 42 yards. Against Georgia, he ran for 59 yards. Look, Mississippi State's not Georgia. They're not Tennessee. Ray Davis is going to run the ball very, very well. I'm just going to lay the points with Kentucky. Neither one of these teams are very good, but Mississippi State I just can't trust at this point, even though they got a nice 7-3 win against Arkansas a couple weeks ago. So give me the Cats. I'll lay the 4.5 on the road. Those are my picks in the Southeastern Conference. We'll run through them again. Ole Miss minus the 3 against Texas A&M. Tennessee minus 36 against UConn. Arkansas catching 4 at Florida. Jacksonville State catching 15.5 in Columbia, South Carolina. Georgia laying the 15.5 against Missouri at home. Auburn on the road laying 12.5, and Kentucky on the road laying 4.5. Some road favorites I'm taking there, but we're just gonna stick to it and try to keep our heads above water, try to stay above 500 as we sit here at the beginning of November. That's my look at the SEC schedule tomorrow. Glad you're hanging out with us on this Football Friday. Still plenty to accomplish over the last 3 segments here. I'm going to talk LSU and Alabama. A couple of things that we haven't gotten to. Some red zone statistics. Some of my thoughts on LSU's offense as well. So we'll get into all of that coming up next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Love telling you about Jersey Mike's, Highway 30 in Gonzales, near the new Heritage Shopping Center. That original Italian cold sub, fantastic. Ham, prosciutto, capicola, salami, pepperoni with the provolone cheese. Can't miss their famous cheesesteaks. Number 17, fresh, grilled to order, tender steak, peppers, onions, white American cheese. I love the bacon ranch chicken cheesesteak. When you order those hot ones, they put it right on the griddle in front of you, melt the cheese over it, and put it on that fluffy, delicious bread. Love telling you about Jersey Mike's catering options as well. Individually wrapped subs, box lunches, 20% off for listeners of the Hunt Palmer Show at the Gonzales location on Highway 30. Download the Jersey Mike's app. Stop by and see our friends there on Airline Highway. Get your brownie tray, get your cookie tray. If you're having folks over to watch the game, how about a little Jersey Mike's? Jersey Mike's, a sub above.
In times of need, get a full list of phone numbers, websites, and other important emergency information on the Demco Stormwatch page at 1045ESPN.com.
Breck teamed up to reimagine your parks, and you imagined big. With your help, we went to work, creating 12 beautiful community parks across the parish. A family-sized water park, miles and miles of trails, and parks just for your dogs. There are more places to splash, to explore, to run wild, and even soar. You imagined, we delivered. Gold. Brack, your #1 park system in the nation.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
When is a taco more than just a taco? When it's Government Taco. Voted best tacos 3 years in a row by 225 Magazine, Government Taco puts the most delicious spin on tacos the capital area has ever seen. With creative combinations like the Magna Carrot, the Filibuster, or the Steak of the Union. Plus perfect tortilla chips paired with the best salsa and queso you've ever had. And happy hour every day from 3 to 6 p.m. and all day on Thursday. Government Taco, 5621 Government Street.
The importance of doing this fortified program and offering it to people down here is, number one, the only real chance you're going to get to do this is when you put on a new roof or build new. And through companies like HUDCO, who's kind of leading the way in this thing, it's going to offer the customers a huge advantage in the insurance market and the price of their insurance.
You know, we're not looking to make a fortune off fortifying. We're trying to give you a better product than our competitor at the moment. I'm trying to do something that he can. I'm trying to give you something better. So a lot of these insurance jobs, you're getting a re-roof, you're only paying your deductible. Let's sit down and talk about the fortified and let's see what it does to your insurance premium. You're getting a steal.
Yeah.
You're getting a brand new roof and a fortified certificate for your deductible, essentially. And I think we're rocking and rolling.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs, even in the case of an after-hours emergency. The light
104.5 this Sunday to catch 3 different NFL games. We start with the noon kickoff, the Seahawks at Ravens. Immediately following that, it's the Cowboys and Eagles. And then our night game, the Bills at Bengals. Catch all of those games here on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Corks, Cajun Fried Fish and Shrimp.
We're better defensively than we were when we played Mississippi. We've made steady progress. I think we're still work in progress, but we're getting better. I think our practice today, and I told them on the defensive side of the ball, was night and day compared to where it was against Missouri on a Thursday. So that's preparation, right? We have to perform. We gotta tackle. We gotta play the ball in the air. We've got to have 11 guys executing together. But we're definitely making the kind of progress that I wanted to see with my own eyes, and we're seeing it.
It's Brian Kelly on his defense and his media availability yesterday. I sure hope so. I hope that the defense is night and day. I don't know that I'm going to sit here and tell you that I believe that it's night and day. I can hope. I don't know that I believe, but I do think they have their chances in this game, and specifically in one area of the field, and that's, of course, the red zone, the most important area of the field. Alabama is 11th in the SEC in red zone touchdown percentage. They score touchdowns just 58% of the time, only 3 teams worse in the SEC in punching it in once they get into the red zone, and that's where LSU can kind of shrink the field and put up a fight. I don't love LSU against very, very talented teams, 11 on 11 out in the open field on defense. They may prove me wrong over the next month, and I would love that. But right now, as I sit here, I don't know that I do. And LSU in the red zone on defense is 13th in the SEC in touchdown percentage allowed. They allow 70% of red zone visitors to score a touchdown. So I'm not telling you that LSU's been great at it. I'm just telling you that that's where I like LSU a little bit more. And Jalen Milroe has made some real big mistakes in the red zone, specifically against Ole Miss, where he threw a terrible pass out to the left that was easily intercepted. But he is dangerous down there because he can use his legs, and he's just a little bit of a different type of player than LSU has seen. He's not like Jordan Travis. He's not like Peyton Thorne. He's not like Brady Cook. He's not like Will Rogers, certainly. He's a different challenge, and Greg Penn was meeting with the media earlier today and talked about the challenge that Jalen Milroe presents.
He has a great arm. He really launches it downfield on deep play action shots. At times you least expect it too. So everyone just needs to have their eyes right on their key and things like that, and just go out there and do your job. If all 11 is doing their job, we'll do a great job.
It's going to take all 11, and a lot of those guys are very, very young. Penn continued just talking about Bama's offense as a whole.
Offensively, they've gotten better each week. I think they're starting to find the identity of what they want to be. I feel like their running back is a great player. Obviously, their quarterback he's a great athlete. He likes to take vertical shots down the field. So, I mean, they obviously cause a big problem for us. I think we need to go out there and just focus and play to our game plan, and I think we'll come out with a great outcome.
Hopefully LSU can tighten things up in the red zone. That's not something that I had talked about earlier this week. Here's another angle of this game that I have not broached upon this week, but comes from a personal experience just being at some of these games over the years. Specifically 2015 in Tuscaloosa. That was the year that Leonard was running roughshod over the entire country, busting 75-yard touchdowns every week, just crushing folks back there in 2015. And LSU went to Tuscaloosa undefeated and among the top 5 teams in the country. Also, 2018, when Tua came in with Judy and Ruggs and Waddle and Lee and Smith and all those guys, and they were just rolling over everyone. And fans, when they come to the game, are certainly well aware of that. Y'all listen to us, and you're on the internet, on your message boards and Twitter, and you're listening to the SEC Network, or you're taking in your college football information however you will, or just watching on Saturdays. And you're well aware of what the opponent is bringing in that day. And I can remember those 2 days very, very vividly, because Leonard was far and away the Heisman Trophy frontrunner that day. And I was in the stands, and the Alabama fans knew that job one against this Les Miles, Leonard Fournette offense with Brandon Harris under center was stop number 7. Stop 7. And every single time he touched the ball and Alabama stonewalled him, that place went nuts. Absolutely nuts. And they did it all day. And it's not just a Bama thing. Same thing goes for 2018 LSU. I remember coming in here and talking to Jordy and T-Bob in the morning show, and we were running out the stats of Alabama had scored a touchdown on every opening drive. I don't remember what the stats were, but I had a stat entering that week, because I was doing the pregame show, about how quickly Alabama was up 14-0, and it was an average of like 4.5 minutes into each SEC game. It was stunning. They were a freight train on offense. And that LSU team was decent. Burrow was, an average quarterback at that point, a little above average, but it was his first year. But you figure like the defense is going to have to stop these guys. And everybody in the stands knew that Alabama had scored a touchdown on every opening drive the first 8 games. Everybody knew it. And the defense took the field, and that place was on springs, and LSU got a stop, and that place went nuts. And I lay those two situations out to tell you that Alabama fans are walking in that stadium knowing their defense is in for a fight. And they can help. So every single tackle for loss, every single pass that's broken up, every single third down stop, heaven forbid, from our perspective, a third down sack, that place is going to be alive because they know where the threat is. Even more so than like 2011, because you just kind of figured that Alabama was going to get a stop. But I can just feel that energy that's going to be present in that stadium on Saturday. And the fans know their job is to help stop LSU's offense. And that's not the case unless you've got Tebow out there, or you've got Leonard Fournette out there, or you've got Johnny Manziel in Tiger Stadium, and you know that every stop is a huge deal. This game is always a huge deal, but every year takes on a different personality, and it's just very rare. Never, in my case, outside of 2019, was the Alabama home crowd fearful of what the LSU offense could do to that team and their defense. And as you know, the 2019 team took the football after Tua dropped it, thanks Tua, appreciate it, and went right down the field, boom, boom, boom. Chase down the left sideline, Jefferson over the middle, boom, Chase over the top, right over Diggs' head, touchdown. And all of a sudden, you can feel, I wasn't there that day, but I know what that stadium would have felt like. You can feel like, oh, like this is the real deal. So important for LSU in this game. So very important to put some tension and some apprehension in that stadium. Because there's a way that you can make that pent-up energy that stadium's got entering the game and flip it to like from ferocious and in your face and into the game and helping the defense to like, oh my God, can we stop these guys? I mean, what do you think that Alabama Bryant-Denny felt like at halftime in 19? Down 20. Burrow's throwing it all over the place. Now, that offense had the ability to dig out of the hole, and they hit Smith down the sideline for a couple huge touchdowns, and they made it a real game. I don't know if this Bama team's built to do that, if LSU can throw that first punch like they did in 2019. But by the same token, if you hit the skids like you did in the second half against Florida State, and you have a turnover or you give up a couple of sacks, a la 13 Mettenberger, where he crawled off the field, you all remember that, then it becomes such a difficult arena to compete in. It's a very obvious thing to say that getting off to a good start is so important for LSU. That's obvious. Clearly a good start better than a bad start. But I think for an amplified reason in this case. And look, we have seen this Alabama team struggle mightily in starts. They've been bad in the first half of plenty of games this year. And it's not like an isolated incident. Now, the bad news for me is that those stats are on the note card I just knocked off the desk, so I'm going to have to pick up the note card to get them, but I will give them to you once I pick it up. It helps to have your notes. But, look, they were in a serious pickle against A&M, Tennessee, Texas, and South Florida. Texas, it was 13-6 Texas at halftime. South Florida, it was 3-3 at halftime. Ole Miss, it was 7-6. Notice I've yet to rattle off an Alabama touchdown in Texas, South Florida, and Ole Miss. Against A&M, Alabama was down 17-10 in the first half. Against the Vols, 20-7 was the score at halftime. Tennessee had a lead. Those are awful numbers for the Alabama offense. Such a slow start. Even more reason to get it ramped up, because I told you yesterday about how good this Bama defense has been in second halves, and it obviously lends itself to that because they won 4 of those 5 games where they had such an atrocious start on offense and were behind the 8 ball immediately. I have confidence that LSU can come from behind in the second half, make a push, and win this thing late. I do. I trust the offense to score whenever they get the ball. But you make your life so much easier, and you make their life so much harder if you get off to a good start. What's Alabama's biggest weakness on offense? Everyone say it all together. We've talked about it all week. They've given up the most sacks in the SEC. What better opportunity to put pressure on their offensive line than by getting a 2 or 3 score lead in the third quarter, forcing Jalen Milroe to have to sit there and throw it, taking the run game away from them because you're not explosive enough, and Saban knows that he's got to go score because they can't stop LSU. This is the dream scenario for LSU. I realize what I'm painting. It's the dream scenario. But that's what we're here to talk about at this point in the week. I'm going to give you my pick here in 20 minutes or so. But these are trends that we're looking at. Bama's been a slow starter. They've been great on defense in the second half. Milrose great with the deep ball. Can LSU deal with that? LSU's been so good in the second half on offense. The Tigers have struggled with the deep ball. All these trends, they tend to bear themselves out on a Saturday afternoon. We'll just have to see how this thing shakes out in Bryant-Denny. I've kind of gone as far as I can go on breaking this down statistically. It helps when I have my note card here with the stats on it. Just such a bummer when you knock it off the table. You don't have it committed to memory. We'll play some take it or leave it when we come back, and we'll get my final pick for Saints Bears and LSU-Bama. That's all coming in the final half hour here on a Football Friday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show.
You are now listening to the Hunt Palmer Show.
Always, always, always love telling you about FanDuel and the FanDuel Sportsbook. Look, score early this NFL season with FanDuel. It's America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 money line bet. That's $150 if your team wins. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, no better time to get in on the action. The app is so easy to use. There's a wide range of betting options that include spreads, player props, over-unders, and much more. So visit FanDuel.com/1045ESPN and kick off the NFL season. FanDuel is an official partner of the NFL. Must be 21 and present in Louisiana. First online real money wager only. $5 pregame moneyline wager required. First online real money wager only. $10 first deposit required. Bonus issued, knowledgeable bonus bet that expires 7 days after receipt. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. If you or someone who knows a gambling problem wants help, call 1-877-770-STOP.
Our listeners fire off their opinions on the jimsfirearms.net hotline at 499-1045. Keep listening for your next chance to shoot us your thoughts with the jimsfirearms.net hotline on 1045 ESPN Baton Rouge.
His name was Cain. He had a horse along the countryside. I saw him ride. One day they found him.
Was a humid day, barefoot children play, looking for that summer shade. Time just slips away. Oh, Louisiana, some kind of hold on me. Like cypress stumps, your roots are planted deep inside of me.
Running Bart's marketing can help you get their attention. Imagine your brand's message on a giant LED billboard truck that can't be skipped and is nearly impossible to ignore. Running Board's marketing is the leader in effective and affordable advertising on digital mobile billboards, which are 2 times more effective than traditional billboards. With a 97% recall rate, you'll leave a lasting impression with your customers.
Scooncha, fall in the air. Fall is right around the corner, which means fall fishing is, which means it's time for you to take your boat to the next level with front-to-back boat service in a bunch of different ways. You want a custom stair job, you can have a ton of fun out there in the water. They can do that. What about a spot lock trolling motor? So you stay right where you need to in casting lines. Or sonar that's let you see the fish under the water before you cast. All of your maintenance needs as well. For 38 years, they've been at it and will continue to do so. The Sherman family of front-to-back boat service.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball,
Moscona inviting you to join us for a Football Friday edition of AFR, presented by Don Juan Cigar Bar. Final preps and picks for LSU-Alabama. Phil Steele and the Riot Radio Hours. Join us, 3 to 6, 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Corks, Cajun Fried Fish and Shrimp.
Football Friday. Hope your work week is in the rearview mirror, but if it's not and close, we'll get you to the finish line. Hunt Palmer here with you for another 25 minutes. Matt's going to drive you home on After Further Review coming up from 3 to 6. Cade Wassan will take over after that with Louisiana Prep Preview. Get you ready for the high school football weekend here on this Friday. It's a big weekend in high school football. A couple teams clinched some district titles last night in the capital city. So congrats to those of you who did. I know U-High and Catholic did. So, and good luck to all you that'll head up on the gridiron this evening. We'll have our final pick coming up at the end of the show. But for now, let's take it or leave it. And we bring back to the show Mr. Taylor Sharp in his old seat.
That's right. I'm going to see if I remember how to do this.
I think you can handle it.
So Deion Sanders has already demoted his offensive coordinator halfway through the year. Is there trouble in Boulder? Take it or leave it.
I'm probably going to take it.
I'll take it.
I would think their recruiting class would look better than it does right now. And maybe he's going to go to the portal and go nuts and do that again. But, like, their recruiting class stinks. It's his first year. They got game day to Boulder. They're selling out crowds. They had won some early season games. I mean, I'm just a little surprised that they're not recruiting at any sort of level at all. His kid is one of the best players on the team. He's not going to be there forever. In fact, he may not be there next year. I mean, I don't really have a ton of evidence that things are awesome. I think it was a really, really smart thing for Colorado to do to bring Deion Sanders in, because who else are you going to get? You're going to get the next guy that's going to come in there and stink? It's a dormant football program at a university that hasn't really cared about it since the early 90s when they won a national championship. Like, bring some life, bring some juice to the table, and they did that. But where's the payoff from that first month where they were the talk of college football? I mean, everyone knew this was coming, and they weren't going to be very good this year, and they're not very good. But where's the juice? I don't know. And you got people stealing stuff out of the locker room apparently, and you're demoting offensive coordinators. It feels a little shaky.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's like everyone went out of their way to try to help Deion make this work. Right now, he can't get out of his own way. The offense hasn't been the problem. It's been the defense.
Yeah.
They're losing games 50-40. I mean, demote your defensive coordinator, man. It's wild times. Yeah, they get stuff stolen out of the locker room, and now he's saying he demands that the NCAA reimburses players for the stuff that was stolen.
Not sure how that works.
Not sure how that's their fault, but
you want to go after security at USC or whatever, or UCLA maybe, but the NCAA not exactly liable for that.
All right, moving on. Taylor Swift in Frankfurt. Take it or leave it.
I think I'm leaving it. Isn't she on tour again? Is doing something somewhere?
I think she's permanently on tour.
I think Travis is going to have to play this one without her. What's the morning show's guys take on T Swift mania in the NFL?
So, I think it's super cringe. I think Mario shares that sentiment. Hester's been kind of quiet about it, and T-Bob absolutely loves it.
I mean, my wife just could not be more in on the Chiefs at this point. She's such a Swiftie, just loves it. She loves Travis now, thinks Travis and Jason are so adorable. This is going to work for her. She needs someone that's going to be to appreciate her power career. It's a bit much.
Yeah, they had a stat on TV the other day. Kelsey's like receiving yards in games Taylor Swift at 10s versus not at 10s. I was like, I can't do this anymore.
She is so famous, it's unbelievable.
Dabo Swinney goes to 4-5 on the year and 7 of 8 in his last 5
15.
with a loss.
That was my bad.
In his last 15 with a loss at home to Notre Dame on Saturday. Take it or leave it.
I'm going to take it. I think they are going to lose that game. I don't know if everybody realizes that, but they're currently 4-4 on the year, and they are 7-7 in their last 14. So they lose this, they go to under 500 for the year and under 500 in their last 15 games. Not really an emblematic thing of one year. It's like it's back-to-back years. I don't know about Klubnik. I don't know if he's the answer or not. It feels like right now it's not. When we did the NFL slate, we talked about the Patriots don't have Tom Brady anymore. They're terrible. The Packers don't have Aaron Rodgers or Brett Favre anymore. They're terrible. The Saints have struggled to replace Drew Brees for 3 years. You don't have Deshaun Watson and Trevor Lawrence anymore. And it's just like, if you don't have that, life's tough. And Alabama, God love them, is making their way through it and doing a really good job without having Bryce Young or Tua or Mac Jones. And that's a credit to Nick Saban and the program that they've built there. Dabo's taking on water, and I think they're going to lose to Notre Dame at home. And I think he may take some more calls on the coaches show next week, quite frankly.
Tyler's not going to be allowed, though. We do know that.
Tyler's going to have to change his name in hometown if he wants to get back in.
How about this one? Tuscaloosa on game day. Take it or leave it.
I'll take it. Very fun. I think I'm fairly objective. I've been to everywhere except Missouri. Tuscaloosa is very good. They've got Denny Chimes over there, where there's a big parade ground type atmosphere. They do an incredible job with in-stadium acoustics and light shows and all that kind of stuff. The bar area for the college kids is 300 yards from the stadium, right there on the strip with Gillettes and Houndstooth and all that kind of stuff. There's enough hotel space in the city of Tuscaloosa as opposed to Oxford or Auburn or any of that. Tuscaloosa is a good trip. I won't be back as long as Saban's there because I just can't take the chance. I need us to be like a 17-point favorite before I go back. I need to feel like we're going to win the game because I was just devastated in 2015. 2015 was just all kinds of awful. We drove up Saturday morning, spent time on the strip. It rained all afternoon, so we're significantly buzzed, soaking wet. I stood in the upper deck and watched us get annihilated by Derrick Henry. We drove back to, I think, Meridian, Mississippi, and there was a sinkhole that was 50 feet wide and had multiple cars in it in our hotel parking lot. The hotel did not have running water. We got there drunk, wet, and tired and sweaty, and they handed us a bottle of water to brush your teeth. It was just awful, just a terrible experience. I went in 11, which was fantastic. I went in 7, which was good. 9 was not very good. 13 was not good. So I've been 5 times. I'm not going to go back until I feel really good about a win. But it's a good time for a college football weekend. I do hat tip to the folks at Tuscaloosa. Rama Jamma, not a very good restaurant, but other than that, it's good.
They have good breakfast. Have you been there for breakfast?
I have been for breakfast. I thought it was fine.
I love how you say take it and then you go and tell your worst experience that one could possibly have.
That was a bad experience, but Tuscaloosa's good. If we'd have won the game, I have blast. I love 2011. It was fantastic.
The hotel was Meridian, so we'll let it slide. This will be Nick Saban's last home game against LSU. Take it or leave it.
See, this is interesting because they're in Baton Rouge next year. And then I don't know if LSU plays Alabama the year after that. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. So if they don't, theoretically, and then LSU maybe goes back to Tuscaloosa, maybe it's 4 years away, 5 years away from another LSU-Alabama in Tuscaloosa, I would guess they'll keep it on the schedule. And I would guess that LSU will play in Tuscaloosa 2 years from now, and I would guess at that point Nick Saban would be the coach. There are rumors that this year or next year is the last year. We don't know what the schedule holds, and maybe the SEC tells Alabama pick 2 rivals, and they say we want Auburn and Tennessee, and LSU comes off the schedule in a couple of years. I don't know. I think it's interesting. I'm going to leave it because I'm not going to really believe that Nick's done until he actually is done and walks away, but there's reason to believe it's possible this is his last home game against LSU.
All right, last one here. There will be booze in the Superdome on Sunday. Take it or leave it.
I'm going to leave this one, but I'm not dismissing the possibility. The win against the Colts last week, I think, saved it because I know multiple people, good friends that were in the Dome on Thursday, and they, at our age, 35 years old, couldn't quite recall an adult memory like the one they had on Thursday against the Jaguars. I know the 90s, it was littered with bagheads and booze, but we weren't really around that much in the 90s. I'm sure my friends went as kids, but we were 7 or 8, 9 years old and not really cognizant of the entire environment that was going on. My buddy said a week from last Thursday, it was a rough scene in there. And so the fact they went to Indy and got back to 500 and the division's kind of come back to them and they're right there towards the top, I think everybody that's going to the Saints game on Sunday realizes this is a team with a legitimate chance to win the division and that they need a little bit more help than they do hurt. And maybe they've got a little bit more belief in Pete Carmichael and David Carr and Dennis Allen than they did at halftime in the Jacksonville game. So I will leave that there will be booze, but I'll tell you this: if the Saints go out there and Carr misses an open touchdown throw in the first half, throws a pick, is sacked twice, and the Saints are down by 17 at some point, there'll be a lot of booze. I just don't think that's going to happen. So I'm going to go ahead and leave that. That's it for Take It or Leave It here on this Football Friday. Corks brings you our Friday shows. Corks Cajun Fried Fish and Shrimp. CorksFishandShrimp.com. They got po' boys at Corks, if you didn't know. I talk about the fried shrimp and fried catfish all the time. I usually tell you about the baked potato with crawfish etouffee on it. You just got a hankering for a shrimp po' boy and kind of struggling to find the great spot to find it. Corks can help you out with that. It is awesome. They got a great catfish po' boy, a great shrimp po' boy as well. See the menu at CorksFishandShrimp.com, and just don't be one of those folks that says, I'm from South Louisiana. I'm not going through a drive-thru to pick up my fried seafood. I promise you. Just check out Corks one time, and you will not regret it. If you're looking to pick up some food in bulk for a high school game this evening, Corks can help you. Get the big haul. It feeds 4 to 5 people. Got a ton of catfish and shrimp. Got your hush puppies and your honey butter rolls. Fantastic stuff over there at Corks. From the same folks that brought you Kuyon's Barbecue across the river in Port Allen, which I think most of you are familiar with. They bring you our Friday shows each and every Friday. Got our new panels up, by the way. If you're watching on YouTube, it makes me very, very hungry to look at it for 2 hours, but that's, I guess, the idea. CorksFishandShrimp.com, CorksFishandShrimp.com. Come back with one more segment. It's my picks on the Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
One Bath and Closets. OneBathAndClosets.com is that website. I told you this yesterday. My wife was sick, and I said, take a bath if you don't feel like you got feverish and you're chills. She's like, I'm not taking a bath. I'm not doing that. Well, if you feel like that and you have bathtubs in your house, why? Take them out. One Bath and Closets can do that for you. They've got tub to shower conversions. It can take that tub right out that you don't ever use and put a glass walk-in shower. Be gorgeous. Changes the aesthetic of your bathroom. Changes the functionality of your bathroom. And if you're thinking, well, I just struggle to pay for that right now, they've got financing options right there at One Bath and Closets. David Duvall and his team have been in this game for 30 years. Check out the website. You can see pictures of their great work. You can request that free consultation. You can see testimonials. Awesome, awesome work over there at One Bath and Closets. And I can promise you this, they're not going to take your job, get it done as quickly as possible to get to the next paycheck. That's not how it works at One Bath and Closets. They're going to do it right the first time and leave the competition behind. Check out that website, OneBathAndClosets.com.
In times of need, get a full list of phone numbers, websites, and other important emergency information on the Demco Stormwatch page at 1045ESPN.com.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs. Even in the case of an after-hours emergency, the light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Scoocha fall in the air fall is right around the corner, which means fall fishing is, which means it's time for you to take your boat to the next level with front-to-back boat service in a bunch of different ways. You want a custom stair job, you can have a ton of fun out there on the water, they can do that. What about a spot lock trolling motor? So you stay right where you need to in casting lines, or sonar that's let you see the fish under the water before you cast. All of your maintenance needs as well. For 38 years, they've been at it and will continue to do so. The Sherman family of front-to-back boat service.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals. But many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly
10 in the prep football season, and we get started Friday night at 6 with Louisiana Prep Preview presented by Brock. And we recap the night starting at 10 with Louisiana Prep Scoreboard presented by Lake Urgent Care. On YouTube, Your View, and 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Corks, Cajun Fried Fish and Shrimp.
Little housekeeping here. So I'll be here 6 more minutes in this chair, and then I'll hand over to Matt, and then I will head to Rouse's from 3 to 5 p.m. Rouse's, Burbank, and Lee. Come on by and see me. Got a bunch of shirts, hats, and whatnot to give away. Very much looking forward to our afternoon over at Rouse's. Eagle on 8.1 Game Day cranks up at 1:45 tomorrow. It'll be Musso and Charlie over on Eagle getting you ready for LSU and Bama. LSU Sports Radio Network takes over at 4:45 or 6:45 kick. That's me, Marlon, and Brandon. We're back 30 minutes after it goes final, 90 minutes after the game goes final. It'll be Charlie and Richard Dixon on Eagle on 8.1 Game Day's post-game show in this Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio right here. Only one order of business left on this Football Friday, and it's been a fun one. Let's pick the Saints and Bears.
New Orleans Saints. The Chicago Bears. Final pick.
Look, the Saints' biggest weakness is very clearly the offensive line. You have had a bust of a first-round pick in Trevor Penning. You've got a converted tackle to guard, back to tackle in Andrews Pete. Ryan Ramchik's missed some time. Your highly paid, high-round draft pick interior offensive linemen have not played well. You've grabbed guys off the scrap heap to start on the right side of the offensive line. It's been bad. But they're getting a little healthier, and they've played a little better the last 2 weeks, and the Bears' defensive front is not good. And Montez Sweat may help a little bit, and he might get back there and get a sack, but this is the worst pass rush in the NFL to this point by sizable margin. So they shouldn't be able to get after Derek Carr, who should have time to operate, and the weapons have never been in question with the Saints team. So I think the Saints offense should move the football. They've gone over 400 yards in the last 3 games. That is a very, very positive thing. Now, the Bears offense stinks, and the Saints defense is very good. So I think the Dome gets behind the Saints on Sunday. I think the Saints defense shuts down Tyler Bagent and this bad Bears offense that had to ship Chase Claypool out of town. And I think the Saints easily take care of business against Chicago like the Packers did, like the Chargers did, like the Chiefs did. My final score in the Dome, 30-14. I have got the black and gold winning that one. One more. It's Alabama and LSU.
Nighttime in Tuscaloosa, Bryant-Denny Stadium, it is filled to the brim. The home team, the Alabama Crimson Tide, the visitors from Baton Rouge, the Tigers of LSU. There's just a little bit of energy going on here in Alabama.
Excited about the opportunity, but no, it's going to be a great challenge playing a team that offensively playing their best football, averaging over 30 points a game, and then I think it's the best defense that we've seen all year. Special teams is outstanding, so all 3 phases, this will be a great challenge and one that should be an exciting football game.
And the Alabama Crimson Tide.
You know you're going to play against a good player. They have a lot of good players. You need to know exactly what to do, how to do it, why it's important to do it that way, so when it comes to the game, you're not really thinking about it, and that's what's going to help you have success in the game.
Now, final pick.
I take the last week in July off every year. And when we come back, the team reports for fall camp. And in Baton Rouge, like Tuscaloosa and Columbus and Clemson, like Athens, we talk about big-time goals. SEC Division Championships, Southeastern Conference Championship game, playoffs, Heisman trophies. This is it. You want to talk about any of that stuff for the next month, any of it, then you have to win on Saturday. You lose on Saturday, no SEC West. You lose on Saturday, you can't win the SEC. You lose on Saturday, you can't play in the playoff. You lose on Saturday, your quarterback's not winning the Heisman Trophy. It's all right there in front of you. Now, if you win on Saturday, you can win the SEC West. You can win the SEC. You could get into the playoff. And you may have the front runner for the Heisman Trophy. We've gone through every single matchup in this game. Bama's offensive line stinks. Milroe takes too much time in the pocket. They want to run the football. They want to take deep shots. LSU's cornerbacks are hurt or suspended or whatever the case may be. You got banged up defensive front. Where's Harold Perkins going to line up? Hey, Jaden Daniels, can he go light it up like Burrow and Cam? And can he go light it up like Johnny Manziel? Can LSU run the football against Alabama's tough defensive front? What does the second half look like? The red zone, we've done it all. It's a matter of going out there and play it. LSU's coming off a bye. They've got a good plan and a great quarterback, and that's what it takes to beat Alabama. I'm worried about the defense, and I'm worried about the consistency of the offense. But I trust them, the consistency of the offense against Florida State, and the consistency of the offense against an Alabama defense. It'll be the toughest test of the year, by far. This will be tougher, I think, than Florida State. I can't pull the trigger on this one for the purple and gold. I think the Alabama defense gets some stops, and I think LSU's defense really struggles to get stops. My final score is LSU 28, Alabama 34 in Tuscaloosa. I hope I am dead wrong. Matt Moscona is going to drive you home. Come on, Tigers. Get it done one time.